Okay, now let's check our project plan. In previous section we completed this Databricks part. Basically we successfully transformed our data. We first imported data from raw data container. It is transformed using Databricks and then loaded into Azure Data Lake Storage account in this transformed data container. Now we are ready to proceed to next step. As you can see, next step is importing that data using Azure Data Factory into Azure SQL database. So for that purpose we are going to be creating Azure SQL Server and Azure SQL Database. And that will be first step. After that we are going to be creating pipeline in Azure Data Factory that will get our data from Azure Data Lake Storage and load it into Azure SQL Database. So let's first create our Azure SQL Server and Database. If I go to Azure Portal, I will be able to see resources that I already have. As you can see, I don't have any Azure SQL servers or some databases, so let's check how can we create a new one. I'm gonna type here SQL Server. As you can see, I have also those two options recommended, but let's type SQL. Basically, let's type SQL Database. And we are gonna be creating first database, and inside database, we're gonna be also creating server. So let's do that. First, we need to provide subscription. Also, we need to provide a resource group. It's this end-to-end project. Basically, you can choose your own resource group. Also, you can create a new one if you don't have. Now, let's provide database name. I'm going to call it end-to-end DB. Let's try something like that. Okay, select server. And now, because we don't have server, so I will click on this create new. Now I need to provide server name. Let's try end-to-end server, something like that. Okay, that's perfect. For this region I'm gonna choose some other region. Let's try, for example, this one. And for this authentication method, let's click on this use SQL authentication. So what we need to provide now? So first we need to provide this server login admin. I'm gonna type, for example, SQL. You can put something else, and also we need to create some password. Let's create something like this. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now you need to create password on your own, and don't forget to keep this password because you will need that later to log into this database. So I'm gonna click on OK. And now we have different options here. Let me scroll up a little bit. As you can see, we have our estimated costs. So currently it's $450, but let's make it less. Let's see how can we do that. Instead of production, we will be using this development. And now you will be able to see that our cost will be much lower. Okay, perfect. Let's also check what we can choose here. Maybe I could choose this one, but it's not that important in this case. Let's click on next networking. And now we have this connectivity mode, which is also important for us. So we need to enable public endpoint. Basically we will, as you can see, allow Azure services to access this server. Yes. And also we will add current client IP address. Yes. This option we will leave as it is. And also for this one. Let's click on next security. For this one, I'm gonna leave it as it is. Let's check if we need to change something. No, let's click on next. Here we are able to provide three options. First is none. Basically this first one means that we don't have any data to import in our database, so I will choose this one, but you can also use some sample database and also back up your existing database. But in this case, as I said, I will be using this none. Collection, for this one it's not important, and also for this one let's click on next, next, and I will be able to create my database. Let's click on create. Currently, as you can see, it's validating, so we just need to wait for Azure to complete it. Okay, perfect. Now as you can see, everything is completed. So now let's click on this Go to Resource. And now we will be able to see our database. What is important here for us? We will need this server name. So what we need this for? Basically, I would like to connect this Azure SQL database to my SQL Server Management Studio on my desktop. So for that purpose, I'm gonna be using this server name. Let's copy that. And let's go to SQL Server Management Studio. And now I'm gonna need to establish the connection. Let's click on Connect, Database Engine. And now I will need to paste here my server name. You have also option, for example, to log into your local server. But we will this time using this one, this server that we copied. Also we will be using this SQL Server authentication. And now we will need to provide that login and password that we previously created. So login is this one and I'm gonna type my password here. Let's click on Connect. And now let's check if everything is connected properly. As you can see, we are now able to see name of our database here. We are able to click on this option Databases, and now we have our end-to-end database. Now we don't have any tables or something else in our database, so we will need to create one now. Let's click on Tables. Let's click on External. But as you can see, we don't have any tables here. Now that we connected successfully Azure SQL database to our local SQL Server Management Studio, now we can go back to Azure portal. And now let's find our server. So basically this is our SQL database, and if I click on that, I will be able to see the information about this database. This is our server name that we used previously. Also, if I click on this search bar here, if I type SQL Server, if I choose this option here, I will be able to see this SQL Server that we created. Of course, we can create multiple servers, but we created only one for this purpose. And now we are able to choose SQL databases. Here is our SQL database that we created. Let's click on that one. And now we are able to see our database. So let's click on this Query Editor Preview, and now we will be able to actually create queries and to log in basically first to our database. Let's click on that. And now we are able to query our database to see our tables and so on.